are continuing with our end of the year countdown. Last time we talked about the 10 worst movies of 2022, but before we get to the best, I always like to take a look at the rest. If you're new to me and my end of the year wrap-ups, I don't think you can take all of the movies that I've seen and neatly pile them into the best and the worst. There are so many films that just kind of land in that in-between area, and really those make up the majority of our viewing. You look at anybody's physical media collection or what they watch on streaming, and a lot of times it's what you may consider a meh film. So I think those films deserve to be acknowledged. So these are the films that weren't quite good enough to make the best list and not quite bad enough to make the worst list, but they're just kind of in between. So here we go. These are my top 10 meh films of 2022. Here we go.
All I know is my gut says maybe.
Number 10. 5/25/77. So this one kind of gets a pretty big asterisk by it because, as I've mentioned many times, this is actually a film from 13 years ago which didn't get released until this year. But if we overlook that, this is one of the most heartfelt films of the year. Everything that the Fabelmans wanted to be, but just couldn't. This has the feeling of a movie made in your backyard by an inexperienced but passionate filmmaker. It really does capture all of that. It's a little long and its point gets made a few too many times, but in the end, it's still a really enjoyable and heartfelt piece. I really enjoyed it. Number 9. The Bob's Burgers Movie. Guilty. I love Bob's Burgers. It's one of my favorite shows, and I was really excited to see they were going to get the big screen treatment. And while the film is enjoyable, the musical numbers are fun, and all of your favorite characters are there doing what they do, it just wasn't enough to justify a full-on feature film. This feels like an extra long 2-part episode, season premiere, season finale kind of thing. It's still fun, it's still Bob's Burgers, so I still love it, but not quite everything I had hoped for, but still a good time. Number 8. About Fate. I don't know what it is about this adorable little movie that just glommed on to my heart and memory and just would not shake it. But watching it and even looking at the poster just gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. It was a genuinely enjoyable, fun, light, and really romantic little comedy, playing around with the idea of fate and destiny that other films this year tried to do but didn't quite stick the landing. I think this one deserves a lot more attention than it got, so I fully recommend checking it out. It's nothing really special, but it's something that'll just kind of warm the cockles of your heart. Number 7. Meet Cute. This is a film I really feel like I need to defend. You always got to ask yourself, is this the hill I'm willing to die on? And yes it is. I think this film did not get the respect it deserved. People criticizing it and raking it over the coals because, as I said in my initial review, this is not a romantic comedy. It's a deconstruction of a romantic comedy and taking a look at a person with severe trauma response. Kelly Coco gives one of the best performances of the year and certainly the best one of her career, period. I think this film deserves to be looked at and talked about for its outstanding performance and its skillful direction. The other side of the romantic coin was not as good, but they still had decent chemistry, and the film is still really emotional and very enjoyable. So please, make sure you check this one out. Number 6. Spoiler alert. This one is without a doubt probably the most realistic portrayal of a human romantic relationship that I have ever seen. And not even a romantic relationship. This could be any relationship that goes long term. The initial meeting, the attraction to one another, sharing interests, worried the other person is going to find your interests creepy or weird, the growing together, the fights, the growing apart, the coming together in the face of tragedy. It's all there. Jim Parsons takes a huge step away from his recognizable role as Sheldon to give us a character who really does feel. And I was so happy to go along for the ride. Sally Field is a bit over the top as his boyfriend's mother, and his boyfriend is not the nicest guy in the world, but the film itself is very genuine and incredibly heartwarming. I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people will too. Number 5. Scream. We have already seen how legacy sequels can go so horribly wrong with the number 2 on our worthless Jurassic Park, Domination, Dominion, whatever the hell I said it was. But here is an example of it done really, really well. Taking the Scream premise, which in itself was a deconstruction of the horror genre, and using it to deconstruct the idea of reboots and remakes, bringing back familiar characters, giving them solid payoffs, and introducing us to a fun new group of characters that you want to see continue on. This film really checked all the boxes for me and made me remember why I really loved the original Scream and its sequels so much. I'm personally looking forward to the next entry in the series, and hopefully they can keep this momentum going and not die out and end up on the worst list for next year. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Number 4. Clerks 3. So Kevin Smith returns once more to the quick stop to give us what I can only imagine is the final chapter of Clerks Dante and Randall and their constant war with the customers. This one did not have, I feel, the sentimentality or the heart that Clerks or Clerks 2 did, but there's still enough in there to go around. This is a genuine love letter to the original film that started off the View Askewverse and began Kevin Smith's career, a love letter to the characters he created and to the fans who have kept it going for so long. Lacking a little bit of the punch of the past entries, but still something that made me proud to watch and made me thrilled to be a fan. So I still really liked it. Number 3. See How They Run. This was the year for the movie mystery fan, and this was one of the films that broke it wide open. This one was tailor-made for a person like me. Mystery movie. Fun Agatha Christie style. Parodying and following the path of an actual Agatha Christie play. Everything is there. Wacky characters, an enjoyable detective duo that you want to see more of, with an interesting twist that keeps the story very focused, but also very tongue-in-cheek. It drags a little bit, and I feel like it could have used a little tightening up here and there, but overall, I found this one a great time. Number 2. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Thor, Love and Thunder. I told you there were going to be a lot of ties, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe brings up the 2 spot in our meh list with this pair of very fun and serviceable films that didn't quite etch over into the iconic state of things like Spider-Man No Way Home or one of the other films that we're going to be talking about in the best list, but both of them were a lot of fun and really enjoyable. Doctor Strange, which took a long time to get to its sequel, did a great job of not only expanding on the character of Stephen Strange himself, but also one of the characters they have really been doing a slow burn on, Wanda Maximoff, who really came into her own. Director Sam Raimi and his horror background were on full display here, making Wanda one of the scariest antagonists in the entire MCU. And it was wonderful to see the Illuminati made up of Patrick Stewart of Professor X, Haley Atwell as Captain Britain, and of course, John Krasinski filling out every fan's wish of playing Mr. Fantastic. Will that come to fruition? Who knows? Thor: Love and Thunder seems to be on the opposite end of the spectrum for a lot of people. The Marvel Cinematic Universe took a lot of bullying and a lot of hits this year, and I have to admit I've heard less legitimate criticism and more just whining because the thing didn't fit their particular taste. Personally, I think Taika Waititi has a great take on the God of Thunder. Chris Hemsworth seems to be really enjoying the role when he can play him goofy. We bring Natalie Portman back into the fold as the mighty Thor, and Christian Bale as, again, one of the most terrifying and fascinating villains we've seen in a while. Now, probably not since Thanos. Yeah, the film drags a little bit. I thought the whole thing of going to God's City or whatever and running into Zeus, I thought that was all fairly unnecessarily and slowed the plot down. But for the majority of it, I loved seeing these characters. I love Taika's take on the characters. And yeah, I think this one does not deserve the bullying it's been getting. I think it was a damn fine Thor film. And the number one meh film of 2022 is Top Gun Maverick and Bullet Train. I am as surprised as anyone. I have long been an outspoken let's just try that again. I'm as surprised as anyone. Anyone who has watched my reviews for any period of time knows that I am not a fan of Tom Cruise, and I am not a fan of Try it again. I am as surprised as anyone. Anybody who's been watching my reviews for any length of time knows that I am not a fan of Tom Cruise and I am not a fan of Brad Pitt. And yet both of them turned out completely unexpectedly enjoyable action films this year. I hate the original Top Gun, but damn if this one wasn't a whole lot better just by the simple fact of adding a freaking plot. It's derailed a bit by the ever-presence of Tom Cruise's massive ego. His character has to be the hero and has to save the day instead of passing the torch to the next generation, which would have made the film a bit more relatable and the arc more commanding. But that being said, I still had a fun time watching it, and seeing Val Kilmer back on screen gave you a kick right in the feels. As for Bullet Train, I said it in my review, I don't know why making video game movies is so hard. This film gives you the perfect blueprint. You get a lot of colorful, wacky characters with distinctive gimmicks. You put them in a confined space, each with different motives and goals, and you let them go at each other. And that's exactly what this movie did. I loved this film. I loved the adventure. I loved the weird characters. Brad Pitt, as always, seems to be the dragging piece in his own film, and there's way too much going on with a snake in it for my taste. But either way, both of these films had me just totally glued. Not the best things in the world, but I can definitely see me watching these and having a great time again. So there you have it. Though that is why Top Gun Maverick and Bullet Train tie for my top meh film of the year. All right, so there you have it. Those are the preliminaries, and now it is time for the main event. When next we meet, we will be talking about the best movies of the year that was. What's going to top the list? Who knows? But come back and we'll find out together. So thank you very much for joining me, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.